Who gave this weapon a guard break? Today I bring to you guys the best Deepspindle build. Honestly guys, this build is extremely fun to play, and all I have to say is this weapon is stupid because it carried me all the way up to top 250, and the amount of insane techs and synergies I discovered while 1v1ing and ganking on this build is just absolutely crazy. And by the end of the video, I'll be providing 2 more stat sheets for the Deepspindle, so make sure you watch all the way to the end for that. For now, let's take a deeper look into this stupid weapon. Just like every weapon the devs release in the weekly patch, this weapon is amazingly balanced. Well, as balanced as having an instant guard break on a light weapon gets. Honestly, using the Deepspindle, you really want to just spam your crit as much as humanly possible. If you're not getting boosted allegations by the end of your chime matches, honestly, you're not using that crit as much as you should be. The crit also allows you to sustain throughout a fight, as when you land your crit, getting that spit off is super easy, and them 2% heals add up real quick in a fight. Now let's talk about our mantras. Honestly, with Shadow, the mantra loadout is pretty much all preference. I've seen a lot of good combinations of mantras for this build, but these are just my favorite picks that work for me. First up is Shadow Gun, our guard break. An easy mantra to learn, but hard to master. You want to set it up with other mantras to land that guard break, such as using it with Rising Shadow. Next up is Rapid Slashes. Honestly, an S tier mantra that you gotta pick up on any build that goes light weapon. We get it to level 4 on this build, and it has some pretty good synergies that I'll get into later on in the video. Next up is the only oath mantra I use, and that's Lord Slice. And holy, words can't explain how amazing this mantra is. Dishing out true damage, flinging opponents away, it's truly amazing, and in my opinion, the best Contractor move. Moving on, we got Shadow Eruption. Honestly, my favorite Shadow mantra. It's really nice to roll cast, and it lands more often than not. Plus, the largest secondary effect of Shadow Eruption actually procs effects such as the blind effects. This is really done for so many reasons, but I'll get into why later on in the video. Then we have the 2 mantras I pick up on every single build I go, and that's Gaze and Exhaustion Strike. Both at level 4, these 2 mantras are some of the most consistent things in the game. Next up is Rising Shadow. This mantra is amazing for putting pressure on your opponent. It's also really useful for setting up range guard breaks, and it synergizes hella well with your crit. For our mobility, we pick up Encircle, which works amazingly with our crit. Just feint M1 or a mantra, then use Encircle with your crit, and it lands more often than not. And finally, our last mantra is a bit of a flex spot. I run Shadow Roar because I like the mantra, but here are some other mantras that I'd recommend to go. You can pick up Shadow Meteors. This mantra is super good pressure, and you can stack it with a crit, making you do a lot of DPS. Or you can pick up Judgment, which is a really good mantra for 1v1s, and you can save yourself the 2 talents. However, it's not that good in gank, so I don't really pick it up. All 3 options are great, but like I said, it's all preference. Moving on to the talents is really nothing special. I pick up Ever-Changing Ages and Perfect Flash for tankiness and damage, Heretic Suture like always, Ether Conduit Charm plus the 4 Song Chant, and this build ends up dishing out a lot of damage. But now let's talk about the stupid combinations of skills and abilities that push this build to a whole new level. The amount of techs and synergies I've found while playing this build is absolutely insane. There's a lot of ways you can abuse the talents and moves this build has access to, but firstly, let's start off with something light. This first synergy is combining Shed Misery and Sightless Steel. I'm sure you're all aware of how annoying Sightless Steel path is. You land one shadow move and suddenly you're fighting an opponent that's completely blind. And Shed Misery also lets you give Insanity through M1s, and Insanity also makes you slightly blind, so when you combine the 2, your opponent genuinely can't see, and what they can't see, they can't parry. This combination is really stupid. Next up is combining Shadow Eruption with the Insignia Gem. Now, what a lot of people don't know is that the secondary larger hit of Shadow Eruption doesn't do that much damage, but it actually procs effects, meaning it can proc the Insignia Gem. People hardly parry the larger secondary hit, so you're procking that Insignia Gem super often, which can let you instacast things like Rapid Slashes and land it for free. Speaking of landing Rapid Slashes, after you land it, you want to go straight into your crit. This almost always hits your opponent's guard, allowing you to get that free guard break. The next synergy is one of my favorites, and that's Shadowcast having the strongest dodges in Deepwoken. Now give me a second to explain. Now currently in the game, we can't have both Observation Safety Dance while having Ghost because they're mutually exclusive. However, we can pick up Observation and Safety Dance, then pick up Dark Rift, a card that functionally performs the same as Ghost, meaning we can have both larger dodge frames while also having iframes on dodges, giving Shadowcast the strongest dodges in the game. And our final synergy is combining Encircle with Lord Slice. This combo does a lot of damage and allows us to continue our combo after we fly away using Lord Slice because we're able to TP back due to Encircle. That was probably the most amount of techs and synergies I've had in one video, but moving on, let's get straight into the stats of the build. Here are the stats of the build. Now, this build has a lot of cards that I personally love to use from the intel tree. However, not many people are fans of the intel tree, so here are 2 other stat sheets that are just as good as this build, but rather go more into charisma. This first stat sheet sacrifices the intel tree, level 4 Gaze and Exhaustion Strike, and it's only locked to Khan, but it makes a crit do 40% more damage. This is due to Manipulator and Unnecessary Theatrics combined with Cornered Full proccing Taunt on Guard Break. Due to the way the crit works, when you land that Guard Break and you proc Taunt, the second part of the crit is going to be able to take full advantage of the extra 20% damage. The next next stat sheet we have only sacrifices the intel tree and can be made on any race. This build still picks up unnecessary theatrics and manipulator, so you're still able to do 20% more damage on your crits. And unlike the other charisma build, you can still pick up shared misery, gaze, and exhaustion strike. Oh, and plus on these builds you can also pick up vision shaper if you want to do that for some reason. That's about it for the builds. If you guys got anything of value from this video, please consider subscribing. I love you guys, and Kaido out.